For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's 15-14 loss to the California Bears. It was an embarrassing performance for the Trojans and what's shaping up to be an embarrassing season for USC as a whole. Dan, there's so many things to break down in this game. Where do you start?
I mean, you just start with all the breakdowns. I mean, this is a team that couldn't almost play better the first half, and yet probably could have walked out of the first half not up 14-0, but up, 3 touchdowns and a field goal or whatever. And they made sure, with a, fumble at the 10 and a fake field goal where they gave it to a kid that, had knee surgery. And he wasn't all that fast before he had a knee surgery. And then they come out and they did everything you could possibly do to get Cal back in the game. And Cal had 3 first downs in the first half. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You got a guy pitching like a no-hitter. You just say, we'll just keep doing it. And what did they do? The bad snap gives them 2. Then the bad field position on the kick and the bad coverage gives Cal a short field, and they score again. So they basically gave them Cal, couldn't do anything to get out of their own way. And USC said, here's 9 points. We'll give you a little 9-point, bonus to start the half and see how that works. I mean, it was just awful. You almost can't do it any worse than they did it tonight. And the second half, 41 yards of offense in the second half. Yeah. It's indescribably bad. And the kids all know it. They say, we can't finish. We don't execute under pressure. We always, you need 3. You need 3 plays to get a first down, and as JT kept saying, somebody screws up on the 3rd play. Said you need 3, and we can only get 2, and then we have a breakdown. And again, that reflects, I think, exactly how they practice. They don't practice under enough pressure, and when it comes time to to do it under pressure, they can't always do it.
Yeah. When it comes to the snapping issues, we've asked Clay Helton multiple times throughout this season, what will it take to get a change at that center position? Will you ever consider changing that Toa at that starting spot? And when asked about it tonight after a fumble that gives up a safety, he said Toa Lobodon is one of the loves of my life, and Toa is our center. He said Toa is the best man for that position. So if you were expecting any change after a performance like tonight, don't expect that going forward.
Yeah, except for those snaps. I won't reference that comment about the Mrs. Lincoln. Other than that, how did you enjoy the play? But Clay said 73 perfect snaps, just 1 bad snap. Well, you gave up 2 points on 1 bad snap. So you can't afford. I would think in this game, what do you think? I'm not a math wizard. But 2 points probably really matters in a game you lose 15-14. Yeah. You don't have that bad snap. If you just take away the snap, you win 14-13. I mean, Cal wasn't going to score a ton of points. There was no way, without help, Cal doesn't win this game. They can't win this game. And USC did exactly what everybody has been asking Clay about since August. I mean. Yeah. In August, you probably needed to make the decision Toa isn't going to be able to snap it well enough. I mean, they go into the 8th week of the season and they're changing his snapping. Yeah. You can't do that. It's just good teams don't do that. Good coaches don't do that. USC did. What do you take out of that?
Yeah. What do you make of Clay Helton going for the fake field goal in the first quarter? I know at that point you don't know the final outcome of the game, but this is the second home game in a row where you look back and you go, maybe Clay Helton should have taken those points.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think against Cal, you take the points. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any question. And what would that have been, a 39-yarder or something like that? You take the points against Cal. And you don't run a silly play. I mean, that's not the person you want running that play. I mean, Michael got a serious knee injury and serious surgery, and he just didn't have a chance. If you don't completely fool Cal's defense, there's no chance. And as we saw on that play, it was something that they fell in love with last week and put in a few different things, and they were convinced they had to do some things like that. I would have been more convinced that whatever you could do to get points against Cal, are going to be good because Cal's not going to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
And the defense played so well for most of the game. Elijah Griffin really got beat badly for the touchdown pass, but for most of the game, they really hung in there on defense, and that was kind of unfair again for this defense to put up a winning effort and lose.
Yeah. Clay Helton was asked what needs to be fixed going forward for the future of this football program, the future of this team. And Helton said he didn't want to get over emotional. He didn't want to say that the ship is sinking. But Dan, where do you think the ship is headed if it's not sinking already?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much sunk at this point this year. And I know Clay is now referencing what happened at Notre Dame. A couple of years ago, they were 4-8. Now they're unbeaten, and they're expected to come in here and just crush USC. But I don't know that they're comparable. Notre Dame basically had to fire most of the staff, and they've got a guy who's taken a team to the national championship game, and they got a guy that's a really mean, tough, SOB, and maybe you have to be. I don't know. I'm guessing if you asked Coach Kelly at Notre Dame why he's keeping a guy in a position who just cost you a game and maybe your job, he would not answer with, that guy's one of the loves of my life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's an answer. You hear it and you go, what did he just say?
Yeah.
What? Hello? Again, Coach Callaway was one of, Coach Callaway, his dad's best friend, in effect, his uncle, the guy who recruited him to Auburn, and he's gone now. So I guess Toa is higher in the, family hierarchy than, Coach Callaway was. But I think the thing that bothers you is how much you get a sense of you want to do right by all the players and you want to really be there for them. And this isn't doing right by the players.
No.
They're not getting coached up. And Clay, said, my job is to put them in position to, win football and be the best, players they can be. He's not doing that. This staff is not doing that. And I think that's kind of unacceptable. I think you got to have higher standards than what we're seeing. I mean, Clay now has a 2-game losing streak in the Coliseum after, so what's the trajectory of this program? I mean, lost to, a Cal team that really doesn't have a lot of great talent. And he lost to a guy who he let go, a couple of years ago when he was interim coach and got the head coaching job. He let Justin Wilcox go. Justin Wilcox, went with a different philosophy in terms of his coaching staff.
Yeah.
Went with ex-head coaches and really, really, smart people who could really, get the job done. And they were, for example, every single USC player we talked to couldn't say enough about how well coached Cal was.
Yeah.
And this is, playing for a team where nobody ever says that about USC. Nobody at USC says it. Nobody, the teams they're playing say it. It's kind of tough, I think, if you're USC and you feel like there's a coaching deficit every time you go out.
Yeah. Well, after the ASU loss, Lynn Swan, USC's athletic director, went on Trojans Live, their little show that they do, and basically gave a vote of confidence for Clay Helton. After a loss like this and the way this season is shaping up, what do you take of where Clay Helton's job security is right now?
Well, I mean, the thing about USC, every other year, you finish with UCLA at the Rose Bowl and Notre Dame here.
Yeah.
USC is one of the very few programs in the country that has basically 2 arch rivals. I mean, you've got to be a really big deal program for a long, long time to have 2 arch rivals. The good news is it allows you to finish strong if you can finish strong. The bad news is, if USC doesn't, beat UCLA, there's a really good chance they're not bowl eligible.
Yeah.
If USC's not bowl eligible, I can't imagine, if you're in the Pac-12 and you can't get bowl eligible, I don't know where do you go from there? Other than to say, it's just a bad year, we'll be good next year. I promise you we'll be good. don't know that flies.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go from here now in a weekly stance? What do you do to prepare for UCLA? I know UCLA is not the best team out there, but they do give some teams a fight. If you're USC, what do you do next?
I don't know. UCLA beat this Cal team 37-7. Go figure there. And I thought UCLA played Arizona State on the road today probably better than USC did. Both games they lost by 3 to Arizona State. But I think the other problem I would think going into this week is like every team USC plays now, they think they can beat USC. Yeah. And Cal, goes out of here thinking they beat USC to death. Doesn't matter. They beat USC. Arizona State came in here, played like crazy because they thought we can beat these guys. UCLA is going to be thinking that exact same thing this week. And where USC's heads are going to be, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Tyler Vaughn said, we just made some mistakes. We just got to clean them up and we'll be okay. Well, I don't know. And how do they really clean things up? I mean, that's the problem, I think, in practice is, just going over it once and saying, okay, don't do that again. Is that enough to clean things up? Didn't look like it tonight. Didn't look like they cleaned up a lot, especially in that second half. So, what do they do? They're convinced they really don't need to do much in the way of changing practice, although this was the week we had the first, no pads November, and I'm not sure. It looked great the first half, and just couldn't look worse the second half. So I don't have any idea, and I don't think they do either about where they are now and where they're going to be next Saturday, other than at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, that's the scary part if you're a USC fan. I know we could probably talk about this game for a while, but any final thoughts before we wrap it up from the Coliseum?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I mean, really, I don't know what you talk about. I mean, again, the one benefit you got if you're USC, you got a chance for, you could beat your arch rivals and go out of here and not feel so bad about it. I mean, the difference between, somehow, I nobody's going to give USC a chance to beat Notre Dame, obviously. But somehow stuff happens. And the difference between being 5-7 and 7-5 right now is it's hard to describe. Even if you beat UCLA this week and you scrape into a bowl at 6-6, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Just it's hard to describe. Watching a game where JT Daniels is 15 of 20 for whatever it was, 237 yards or whatever, and 2 touchdowns the first half, no interceptions, 1 sack. And the second half, he just gets crushed. I mean, just nothing there. How does that happen? And JT had a good answer. I asked him that exact question. How does that happen? He said, I wish I knew. And I think we could all go out of here with the words of JT in our ears. I wish I knew.
Yep. All right, we're ending it on a solemn note for sure, but it's a pretty solemn game, I guess. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.